Hi guys, it's Zahid here from Abbey Property in Luton. I'm back with a Q&A Friday, 6 o'clock. Again today, any questions, drop them down in the comments below or just somewhere wherever you see it, and I'll be happy to answer anything. In the meantime, just to hear that up, let's get started with a few questions I've had previously, as well as getting a few more comments throughout the week on the build up to this. So just checking. One of the questions I've had was regarding guarantors. So if you can't prove your income, so usually within a property in the UK, most agents will require your income to be 2.5 times the rental amount. So for example, if your income is, if your property is £1,000 a month, your income would need to be £2,500 per month in order to be able to qualify for the property. If you can't match that, or you can't prove your income, then you will need a guarantor, and the guarantor's income needs to be 3 times the rental amount. So just keep that in mind whenever you are doing that. That's one thing to consider. Right to rent. So obviously, it's got a question regarding right to rent. So this is based just to make sure that you're not illegal. You have the right to rent essentially inside the UK, and your agent will check out your documents, or your landlord will check out your documents and sort of assess if it's safe enough for them to put you inside the property. So generally with this, I had a question, I'm not sure if it's a real question or not, but it said what happens if you fail a right to rent check. So what that means is you can't rent a property in the UK for, essentially you're not legal inside the UK. So sometimes I've had a case where in the past someone actually asked me this, but their situation was more to do so with their documentation is with the Home Office. So as I mentioned previously as well, if your documents are with the Home Office, they will always send you an acknowledgement letter, which you're able to show to your agent or show it to your landlord, and that will be sufficient. The landlord can keep a document of that, or the agent can keep a document of that, and they fully are secure and fully backed, so nothing to worry about whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. In terms of what documents you're going to need to apply for a property, so every agent is different. But most of them will have very similar requirements. The odd here and there, etc. They might ask for something a bit more or less. So I'll give you some examples of that. So generally, you will definitely need your passport, driving license, whatever, in order to show your eligibility, with your visa, etc. All of these kind of things. So what you could do is, if you're concerned about right to rent, you can go to the gov.uk website and just check out there directly. To see what documents that you actually need in order to rent out, and that will give you like a whole breakdown of everything that's required and how many pieces of evidence, etc. Everything. Most agents will ask you 3 months worth of bank statements. Some agents will ask for 6 months. So it all depends in order to what their sort of processes are. The next thing is you will need pay slips as well. Again, most agents will ask for 3 months, some might ask for 6, some could even ask for 12. So that's entirely depending on who you're dealing with. You'll have to obviously pass a credit check. If you've got CCJ on your name, most agents or landlords won't consider you, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Sometimes what you can do is pay a larger sum up front. If you're comfortable with doing that, it's entirely up to yourself. At the same time, bear in mind an estate agent can't force you to do that. But if you offer it at your own accord, that's something someone might possibly consider. So the right to rent checks, like I mentioned earlier on, plus your income needs to be 2.5 times the rental amount. So just bear that in mind as well. Your agent or landlord might ask for an employment reference from your employer, just to see if you're permanent, how long you've been at the job. And also you might ask for a landlord reference just to see if you've been paying your rent on time, and how you've been like at the property, if you maintained it well, etc. Looked after the property. So those are the few things. If you had a few cases, well, it happens quite often really. You might have just started a brand new job, so in those kind of circumstances, you might not even have received your first pay slip. So an employment reference confirms that you've literally just started work, and it confirms what your income, etc., everything's going to be if you're in a probation period, or if you're in a fixed employment contract, whatever the situation is. If you're self-employed, a lot of people have difficulty proving their income. So a very simple, straightforward method is getting an SA302 form. Sorry, getting an SA302, which is your most recent accounts. You can ask your accountant for that, and they'll be able to provide it to the agent or the landlord, or even to yourself, and you can pass it on and get that done. Like I mentioned at the beginning, the Q&A. If you have any issues with that, you can always use a guarantor. The guarantor needs to have 3 times the rental amount. So just keep that in mind at the same time as well. So normally guarantor is applicable for people who are either failing the credit check, claiming benefits, or they can't prove their income, and a lot of the times people who are students as well. Any questions, drop them down below. I'll be able to answer them for you. So any questions, drop them down below and I'll get that answered for yourself. So right, can I redecorate my property? So yeah, you can definitely redecorate a property depending on exactly what you want to do. For us personally, every landlord is different, but all agents are different. For us, as long as you repaint it back to normal afterwards, or you're using neutral colors and it's well presented, it's perfectly fine. A lot of the time people want to sort of like put holes in the wall. As long as you cover it up slightly afterwards, whatever needs to be done, do a little patch up on top of it, or just fix it or repaint the whole wall, whatever needs to be done to bring it to the right condition again. That's very, very important. As long as you do that, that's you'll be fine. You won't have any sort of deposit issues, etc. there afterwards. I had another question: how do I end a tenancy? So very simple, straightforward. Send an email to your landlord or an agent and just let them know that you'll be vacating at a certain period of time. So bear in mind, depending on your agent, you might want to give them a call and find out. Some of them will accept a 30-day notice, or some of them will want a full calendar month notice. So for example, if you're given a notice on the 15th, it might not come into effect until the 1st of the following month, and then from the 1st until the end of that month, which is 30, 31 or whatever, however many days are inside that. So just keep that in mind. Text messages, it's okay, but it's not really the best way of sort of giving a notice. You want to do it formally through an email. So that's something you can store yourself as well and keep it inside your folders or wherever you need to keep it. Right, when will a checkout happen? So checkouts usually tend to happen a week or 2 before you move out from the property, just to have a look at the property, just to give you any feedback in terms of what might or might not be needed to be done after you've done. But the real checkout, so the previous one I mentioned, sorry, that's called a pre-checkout. The formal checkout is done on the day you leave or the day after, usually. So it's done either in your presence or without your presence. Totally depends on yourself. If you're a tenant, I would highly recommend you to do it with the estate agent. It's a lot more easier for the agent. It's a lot more easier for the tenant as well. So you can clearly agree exactly the condition of the property on the day, so there's no discrepancy. Thereafter, how do I get my deposit back? So this is the last question I'll be doing today. In order to get your deposit back, very simple. Contact your agent or your landlord. There's 2 types of deposit schemes. One is insured, one's custodial. To get it on from the insured, you'll have to contact your agent or the landlord and ask them to return it to you, because it's insured and they kept it in their own account, but a separate deposit account. If it's custodial, then the money is sent to the protection service. So for example, DPS, they will hold the deposit and they will register, so they will hold the deposit, etc., and issue a certificate for that. Very simple. Every website's different. I'm familiar with DPS, so just go to the website, request a deposit back, fill in your account details. The agent or the landlord approves it, and it heads into your account within the 5 working days. Any questions, let me know down below. I'll wait for half a minute, sorry. Any questions, drop them down below and I'll be able to answer those for you. Alright, that's great. I hope you guys enjoyed that, found lots of value inside it. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me directly on info@abbeyproperty.com or Zahid, Zahid @abbeyproperty.com. Be more than happy to answer those questions, or just drop it in the comments down below even after the live, and I'll be happy to just check them out and be able to answer it for you in the next live. Thank you and bye for now.